As you lie there, let your mind wander with these timeless lessons from ancient philosophy. Stretching from the calm resolve of Stoicism to the flowing ease of Taoism, from Epicurean joys to Cynic simplicity, skeptic doubt to Platonic truths, and Aristotelian reason. Reflect on wisdom that has guided souls for centuries, a journey through thought to carry you gently tonight. The Stoics stride forth from the ancient streets of Rome, their voices rising not with the clamor of conquest or the bustle of markets, but with a quiet, unshakable strength that settles over the night like a blanket of stars, a philosophy forged in the crucible of real lives. Marcus Aurelius, atop an empire's throne, Seneca amidst the glittering dangers of Nero's court, Epictetus in the humble dust of a slave's shack, each finding a way to release the world's grip and rest in its unfolding. Their words now, your gentle companions, weaving a tapestry of calm to lull you into sleep. Stoicism begins where life often frays, with a truth Marcus Aurelius, scratched into his journal, under the dim glow of a camp lantern, surrounded by the murmur of soldiers and the weight of 1,000 worries. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And those words drift toward you now, steady and clear, a cornerstone that promises peace, not in mastering the chaos outside, but in tending the stillness within, a lesson that feels like a key, slipping into a lock, turning softly, opening a door to rest. The Stoics gazed upon a world in constant motion, armies marching across frontiers, storms tearing through coastal towns, friendships blooming and fading like flowers in a Roman garden. And they asked a simple question that echoes through the centuries. Why fight what cannot be held? Why clutch at sand as it slips through your fingers, when letting go brings the calm of an undisturbed shore? Seneca, with his voice as sharp as a blade, yet as soothing as a lullaby, built on this, he said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," and his wisdom cuts through the haze of restless thoughts, suggesting that the shadows we chase through the night are often of our own making, shadows that dissolve when we turn from them and let the quiet of the present take their place. Picture a merchant standing on the wharf of Ostia, his ship swallowed by a sudden squall. He doesn't rail at the sea or mourn the silks lost to the deep. He brushes the salt from his cloak, nods to the horizon, and walks back to the city, his peace intact, not in what he keeps, but in what he releases. That's the Stoic way, a strength that doesn't crumble when the winds blow, but bends like a reed and stands tall again. Epictetus, whose life began in the shackles of servitude, spoke with a clarity honed by struggle. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will, he said, and his words roll over you, like a tide smoothing the shore, washing away the jagged edges of the day's undone tasks, the missed chances, the words left unsaid, leaving only the smooth expanse of acceptance in their wake. The Stoics didn't turn from life's trials. They met them head-on, from the battlefield to the courtroom, to the slave's cell. But they saw that pain becomes suffering only when we resist it, when we demand the world bow to our plans. And their first great lesson is to set that demand aside, to let the world spin as it will, to find rest in its rhythm rather than its reins. Imagine a sculptor in a dusty workshop, his hammer slipping, a vein of marble splintering. He doesn't hurl the chisel or abandon the stone. He steps back, traces the crack with his fingers, and carves a new shape from the break, turning flaw into form, chaos into calm. That's Stoicism, a craft of the mind, a way of molding peace from what life hands you, not what you wish it had. Marcus Aurelius returned to this often in his quiet hours, writing, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking," and his voice, feels like a warm ember flickering in the dark, a gentle light that reveals happiness, not as a distant peak to climb, but as a seed already planted, needing only the water of thought to bloom where you lie tonight. The Stoics framed life as a grand theatre, a stage where we're cast in roles, emperor, senator, servant, not of our choosing, and they taught that mastery lies not in rewriting the script or stealing the spotlight, but in delivering your lines with grace, stepping into the wings when the scene ends, letting the curtains fall without a fight. Seneca, with his poet's ear, offered another pearl. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. And his words float like leaves on a stream, a soft nudge to let tomorrow linger beyond the horizon, to let its worries drift out of reach, while the night wraps you in its stillness, free of what's yet to come. Imagine a traveler on a Roman road, his cart shattered by a hidden rut, his goods scattered across the dust. He doesn't curse the path or the fates. He gathers what he can carry, finds a tree's shade, and rests with the sun on his face. That's the Stoic heart, a willingness to walk with life's turns, to pause when the load lifts, to let go when it falls. Epictetus sharpened this into a blade of truth. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens, he said, and his lesson settles over you, like a soft cloak, warm and light, freeing you from the chains of what can't be shaped, offering a freedom that doesn't demand the world change, but asks only that you meet it as it is. The Stoics saw humanity as threads in a cosmic tapestry, a vast weave of change and chance, and they urged us not to tug against the pattern, but to blend into its flow, like a bird gliding on a breeze, its wings steady, its flight serene, needing no force to stay aloft. Marcus Aurelius mused on this in his tent, the wind howling outside, writing, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." And his words ripple through the night, turning the day's shifts, the plans that broke, the words that stung, the tasks left hanging into mere waves on a sea, rising briefly, falling gently, leaving the water smooth once more. Stoicism's beauty lies in its softness, its way of opening the soul, not by armoring it against life's blows, but by letting those blows pass through, leaving no mark, no weight, just a quiet that grows in their wake. Seneca gave us another glimpse. What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears, and his tone carries a faint smile, not of despair, but of perspective, a quiet laugh at how we fuss over single threads when the fabric stretches beyond sight, a call to rest in the weave rather than unravel it. Imagine a shepherd on a windswept hill, his flock scattered by a gust. He doesn't chase every stray or curse the storm. He whistles once, gathers what returns, and sits beneath the stars, the night folding around him like a cloak. That's the Stoic path, a gathering of what matters, a release of what doesn't, a rest beneath the vastness above. The Stoics taught that true freedom isn't in commanding the world, but in commanding ourselves, in seeing that what we control is small yet sufficient, the thoughts we harbor, the steps we take, the peace we claim. And Epictetus framed this with stark simplicity. Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us, he said, and that divide glows like a lantern in the dark, showing you what to hold, what to let slip, guiding you through the night with its steady beam. Marcus Aurelius, alone in his tent as the empire slept, wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." And his voice brushes over you, like a hand smoothing a wrinkled cloth, revealing that the day's burdens are heavy, only if we call them so, light, if we choose otherwise, a lesson that lifts the weight with every word. Seneca loved a good story, and he told of a man who lost his wealth in a single night. Friends wept, but he smiled, saying, "I never owned it. It was only lent to me." And that's Stoicism's core, a refusal to claim what time reclaims, a calm surrender to life's fleeting loans, a peace that doesn't grasp, but opens its hands. Imagine a sailor on a stormy sea, his ship groaning under crashing waves. He doesn't fight the ocean or beg the skies. He steadies the helm, trusts the timbers, and rides the swell, finding calm amid the roar. That's the Stoic mind, resilient yet relaxed, resting even as the waters roll. The Stoics saw death not as a thief, but as a quiet guest, a step back into nature's cycle. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live, Marcus wrote, and his words settle like dew on the grass, suggesting that life is here, in this night, in this calm, not in battles yet to fight or echoes already faded. Their lessons rise like stones in a riverbed, strength through release, peace through perspective, joy through simplicity, each one solid yet smoothed by time, forming a path not to somewhere else, but deeper into this moment, this stillness, this rest. Stoicism's gift is its lightness, its way of lifting the soul, by subtraction, peeling away worry, want, resistance, until what remains is pure, quiet, whole, a philosophy that doesn't demand you chase it, but invites you to rest beneath it, to let go, to drift, carried by the gentle current of their thought into the night's embrace. And yet, the Stoics' wisdom flows deeper still, a wellspring of calm that spills over from their lives into lessons that stretch across time, each one a quiet gift, ease you further into sleep's embrace, like a river widening as it nears the sea, carrying you effortlessly along its course. Marcus Aurelius, perched on the edge of empire, often gazed at the stars above the battlefields, not as a ruler bent on conquest, but as a man humbled by the vastness. He wrote, "Dwell on the beauty of life, watch the stars, and see yourself running with them." And his voice rises like a soft wind through the night, painting a picture of a sky so grand that the day's petty troubles shrink to specks, a lesson that lifts your spirit with the promise that there's more to existence than what weighs you down, a cosmic calm that cradles you as you drift. Seneca, strolling through Rome's chaotic streets, watched men chase fleeting riches and hollow fame, and he mused, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor," his words chiming softly in the stillness, a gentle reminder that peace isn't found in gathering more, but in resting with what's enough, a perspective that hushes the clamor of want, letting you sink into the quiet of the night, with nothing left to grasp. Imagine a farmer on a sun-scorched hill, his fields parched by a relentless summer. He doesn't curse the clouds that never came, or weep over the wilted stalks. He kneels in the dirt, plants anew, and finds strength in the toil itself. That's the Stoic resolve, a steady hand that turns loss into purpose, a calm that grows from the soil of what is, not what might have been. Epictetus, teaching from a modest porch with only a stool and a lamp, told his listeners, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has," and his voice drops like a stone into a tranquil pool, sending waves of gratitude through the dark, a lesson that shifts your gaze from absence to presence, from scarcity to plenty, easing you into sleep with the warmth of what endures. The Stoics saw time as a relentless river, not a rigid chain. Marcus wrote, "Time is like a river made up of the events which happen, and a violent stream, for as soon as a thing has been seen, it is carried away." And his words flow over you, like water over smooth stones, suggesting that the day's moments, sharp edges, sweet glimmers, rush past in an endless current, leaving no mark, unless we try to hold them back, a call to let them slip away, to let the stream run clear and free. Seneca, watching the sun dip below Rome's 7 hills, added, "We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. His tone a tender whisper in the night, urging you not to chase time's tail, but to savor its passing, to rest in its gentle drift rather than fight its flow. A lesson that slows the world into a lullaby's rhythm. Imagine a potter at his wheel in a quiet village, his clay crumbling under a shaky hand. He doesn't toss it aside or despair at the mess. He dips his fingers in water, smooths the lump, and spins it into something new, finding beauty in the retry. That's Stoicism, a patience that meets life's stumbles with grace, a calm that doesn't demand flawlessness, but shapes what's there into something whole. Epictetus, his voice echoing through a simple classroom, told his students, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well." And his words settle like dust after a storm, a lesson that turns resistance into acceptance, that smooths the edges of life's twists, easing you into sleep with the promise that what is enough. The Stoics saw fortune as a fickle guest. Marcus wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." And his voice glows like a hearth in the cold, a call to embrace what comes, to find warmth in the given, a lesson that wraps the night around you like a friend, steady and sure. Seneca, watching a storm lash Rome's rooftops, mused, "Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling." His words a soft murmur in the dark, suggesting that life's path is smoother when we walk with it, not against it. A wisdom that carries you along like a leaf on the wind, light and free. Imagine a baker in a quiet dawn, his oven failing, his bread unrisen. He doesn't rail at the fire or the dough. He kneads again, stokes the coals, and waits, finding calm in the wait. That's Stoicism, a patience that meets setbacks with a steady hand, a peace that grows in the space between effort and outcome. Epictetus, sitting under a fading sun, said, "He who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at," and his voice carries a gentle chuckle through the night, a lesson that softens life's stumbles with humor, that lightens the load of pride, easing you into rest with a smile. The Stoics taught that wisdom is wealth. Marcus wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts," and his voice shines like a lantern on a dark road, a guide to richness not in gold, but in calm, a treasure that fills the night with quiet, a strength that needs no coin. Seneca, gazing at Rome's endless sprawl, said, "While we wait for life, life passes." His words a soft echo in the stillness, a reminder to live now, to rest now, to let the night be enough. A lesson that draws you deeper into sleep's gentle tide. Imagine a scribe in a dim library, his scroll torn by a careless hand. He doesn't mourn the ink or the ruined lines. He takes a fresh sheet, dips his quill, and writes anew, finding purpose in the restart. That's the Stoic way, a calm that rises from renewal, a rest that blooms from what remains. Their lessons weave on, a fabric of calm that stretches wider. Marcus with his timeless gaze, Seneca with his tender clarity, Epictetus with his humble steel, and together they craft a night unbroken by worry, a stillness unbroken by want, a sleep unbroken by resistance, carrying you ever deeper into rest. Epictetus, ever the practical sage, sat with his students under a fading sky and said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid," his words falling like soft pebbles, a reminder that the world's opinions are mere echoes in the wind. That peace lies in letting them fade, in resting beyond their reach, a lesson that stills the noise of judgment as you drift closer to sleep. The Stoics held virtue as the truest treasure. Marcus wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one," and his voice glows like a steady flame in the dark, cutting through life's clutter with a call to kindness, to honor, to calm, a guide that promises rest not just in stillness, but in living well, in aligning with what's noble. Seneca, weaving through Rome's crowded alleys, saw men chase fleeting joys, wine, applause, gold, and he said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future," his words tolling like a soft bell through the night, drawing you back from tomorrow's shadows, settling you into the now, into peace, into rest. Imagine a guard atop Rome's towering walls, the city hushed below. He doesn't dread the dawn's clashes or dwell on the night's silence. He stands his watch, feels the cool breeze, and lets the hours roll past. That's the Stoic stance, a presence that stays rooted, a calm that doesn't waver, a rest that flows naturally from being where you are. Their lessons stack like bricks in a quiet wall. Marcus with his starry wonder, Seneca with his piercing serenity, Epictetus with his earthy grit, and together they form a shelter, not against the world, but within it, a refuge where letting go becomes a strength, where releasing the day's weight lifts you higher, carried by their wisdom, into a stillness that deepens with every word. But Stoicism's well runs even deeper, its waters spilling into corners of thought that stretch beyond the familiar, each lesson a quiet thread in a fabric that wraps you tighter in calm, each story a stepping stone into the night's embrace, a journey that doesn't end but widens, like a path through an endless grove, inviting you to walk further, to rest more fully. Marcus Aurelius, camped on the edge of a barbarian frontier, his legions sleeping under a moonless sky, wrote, "Look back over the past, with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future too." And his voice hums like a distant horn, a reminder that history's tides, kings crowned, cities raised, roll on without pause, a lesson that today's troubles are just ripples in a vast sea, fading into the night's horizon as you let them go. Seneca, pacing his villa as Rome buzzed with intrigue, observed, "Life is long if you know how to use it." His words a soft rustle in the dark, suggesting that time isn't measured in years, but in moments lived well, in hours rested rather than chased, a perspective that stretches the night into a canvas of calm, free from the rush of what's next. Imagine a fisherman on the Tiber's banks, his lines snapping in a sudden current. He doesn't curse the fish or the river's pull. He ties a new knot, casts again, and watches the water dance, finding peace in the rhythm of try and retry. That's the Stoic spirit, a resilience that flows with life's currents, a strength that rests in motion as much as in stillness. The origins of Taoism, a quiet voice in a noisy time. Taoism emerges from the ancient landscapes of China, a philosophy that took shape over 2,500 years ago, during a tumultuous period known as the Warring States, spanning roughly from 475 to 221 BCE. This was a time of relentless strife. 7 major states, including Qin, Chu, Zhao, Qi, Han, Wei, and Yan, vied for supremacy across a fractured land that stretched from the Yellow River in the north to the Yangtze in the south. Armies marched through fertile plains and rugged hills, wielding bronze swords and chariots, leaving behind trails of destruction as they fought to unify China under one banner. Cities like Linzi and Handan swelled with soldiers and refugees, only to burn when sieges broke their walls. Historians estimate that hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, perished in these conflicts as warlords unleashed campaigns that razed villages, uprooted families, and turned farmland into battlegrounds. The Zhou dynasty, which had once held the realm together with a network of feudal lords, had eroded by the 6th century BCE into a hollow shell, its kings reduced to ceremonial figures, while regional powers carved out their own domains, each seeking to outmaneuver the others in a brutal game of survival. In this chaos, thinkers sought answers to a fractured world. Some turned to Confucianism, led by Kong Chi, known as Confucius, who preached a structured society built on ritual, duty, and respect for elders, aiming to restore harmony through moral order. His followers argued that if rulers led with virtue and families honored tradition, the state could heal. Others embraced legalism, a harsher philosophy, championed by figures like Shang Yang and Han Fei, who insisted that only strict laws, severe punishments, and absolute control could tame the disorder. Essentially, order through fear. These ideas clashed like swords in a duel, each offering a vision of stability amid the storm. But Taoism stepped aside from this fray, emerging as a quieter voice, a philosophy that didn't aim to conquer the turbulence or impose a rigid framework, but to flow through it like a stream weaving around rocks, finding peace in adaptability rather than resistance. The figure most associated with Taoism's birth is Lao Tzu, a name meaning old master, though his existence hovers between history and legend. Traditional accounts, recorded by the historian Sima Qian in his Records of the Grand Historian around 100 BCE, place Lao Tzu in the 6th century BCE, living roughly contemporaneously with Confucius. Sima Qian describes him as a keeper of archives in the Zhou court, a scholar tasked with preserving texts and records in a crumbling dynasty. The Zhou, once a unifying force that rose around 1046 BCE, had lost its grip by Lao Tzu's time, fractured by internal rivalries and external threats. As a court official, he would have seen the petty intrigues, the endless jostling for power, the corruption eating away at a once mighty realm. One story tells of a meeting with Confucius, who sought his counsel and left marveling at his depth, saying, "I have seen a dragon riding the winds and clouds today." Yet beyond this, Lao Tzu's life remains shadowy. Some scholars suggest he was a single sage. Others propose the name masks a collective of early Taoist thinkers who contributed to the philosophy over generations. The most famous tale of Lao Tzu captures his essence. Disenchanted by the court's chaos, the scheming ministers, the clamoring lords, the relentless drive for dominance, he resolved to leave it all behind. He climbed onto an ox, a humble, plodding creature symbolizing patience over haste, and rode westward toward the rugged mountains that marked China's frontier. His journey took him to the Hangu Pass, a narrow gateway flanked by cliffs, where a guard named Yin Shi recognized the quiet wisdom in this solitary traveler. "Before you vanish into the wilderness," Yin Shi pleaded, "leave us your knowledge." Lao Tzu paused, perhaps beside a flowing brook or under a sprawling tree, and composed the Tao Te Ching, a text of 81 brief chapters totaling about 5,000 Chinese characters. With his words set down, he rode on, disappearing into the haze of legend, leaving no trace beyond the scroll that would shape a philosophy for millennia. Whether Lao Tzu was one man or many, the Tao Te Ching reflects a response to its time, a rejection of the era's loud ambitions in favor of a quieter way. While warlords raised banners and scholars debated grand systems, Taoism turned to nature's lessons: the river that bends without breaking, the wind that shifts without straining, the seasons that turn without force. It didn't seek to rebuild the world but to live within it, offering a path of ease amid the storm. This origin story isn't just a backdrop, it's the seed of everything Taoist thought would grow into. A philosophy that values flow over fight, simplicity over complexity, stillness over strife. The Taoist, the unseen current at the core of Taoism lies the Taoist, a concept so profound and elusive that Lao Tzu opens the Tao Te Ching with a caution. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Translated as the way, it's not a road you pave or a destination you mark. It's the essence that runs through all existence, the rhythm beneath the rustle of leaves, the pulse of a river over stones, the quiet holding a mountain's form. The Tao isn't a god to pray to or a law to enforce. It's the natural order, the unseen harmony that weaves through every blade of grass, every gust of wind, every shift of light and shadow. In chapter 25, Lao Tzu offers a glimpse. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite. I call it the Tao. This isn't a creation tale of gods crafting worlds. It's a recognition of an eternal presence, older than stars or seas. Before the cosmos took shape, before mountains rose or rivers flowed, the Tao existed, a source beyond time or form. Scholars interpret this as a philosophical principle, not a deity. It's the flow that connects all things, the thread that ties life into a seamless whole. Lao Tzu doesn't claim to define it fully. He can't, but he points to its presence, inviting you to sense it rather than seize it. Think of a river, not as water alone, but as a process. It moves, bends, gathers and disperses, yet remains itself, constant in its change. The Tao is this, everywhere, yet nowhere specific, shaping without shouting. In chapter 34, Lao Tzu writes, "The Tao flows everywhere, and in all directions. It accomplishes its tasks but claims no merit." This humility stands out. It doesn't demand worship or recognition. It simply flows like a stream feeding fields without asking for thanks. In ancient China, where kings built towering palaces and etched their triumphs into stone, this was radical. Lao Tzu saw power, not in monuments, but in nature's quiet ways. The river that carves valleys, the wind that sculpts dunes, all without pride or strain. Another verse, from chapter 4, deepens this. The Tao is an empty vessel. Used, it is never filled. It's a paradox, empty yet boundless. A well that never runs dry. You can't bottle it or pin it down. It slips through definitions like water through hands, but you can draw from it endlessly. Lao Tzu's point isn't to confuse but to free. The deepest truths don't need grasping, only trusting. In chapter 14 he adds, "Look, it cannot be seen. It is beyond form. Listen, it cannot be heard. It is beyond sound. Grasp, it cannot be held. It is intangible." This isn't a riddle to solve. It's an invitation to let go of the need to know, to flow with the Tao like a leaf on a current. This idea challenged the warring state's ethos. Rulers hoarded grain, drilled armies, and built walls to defy invaders, all acts of control, of Yang's heavy hand. Lao Tzu pointed elsewhere, to the farmer who plants in season and rests in winter, to the river that finds its way without a map. The Tao isn't about domination, it's about alignment, about moving with life's rhythm rather than against it. It's the source of yin and yang's dance, wu zi, simplicity's clarity, a thread weaving through all Taoist thought, a current carrying you forward without force. Yin and yang, the balance of life. From the Tao flows yin and yang, the twin forces that give life its texture and motion. They're not just symbols, they're the heartbeat of existence, the interplay that keeps everything in flux. Yin is the soft, the dark, the receptive, like a shadowed grove where dusk pools in silence, or a winter night when frost hushes the earth. Yang is the bold, the bright, the active, like sunlight warming a hillside, or a summer wind bending branches. These aren't opposites at war, they're partners, each holding a spark of the other, weaving a balance. Lao Tzu saw as the Tao's living expression, the yin-yang symbol, a circle split by a curving line, with a dot of white in the black and black in the white, embodies this. That dot matters. It's a quiet sign that light cradles shadow, motion cradles stillness. Every force carries its counterpoint. In chapter 2, Lao Tzu writes, "Being and non-being produce each other, difficult and easy complete each other, long and short contrast each other." This isn't abstract philosophy, it's practical observation. Day yang fades to night, yin then returns. Effort yang rests in noise yang settles into silence. Yin life thrives when these forces flow together, not when one overpowers the other. Lao Tzu saw this balance everywhere,
In chapter 11, he says, "We join spokes together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that makes the wagon move." Here yin, the empty space, enables yang, the wheel's motion. Nature reflects this endlessly. A river's flow yin shapes, stone yang, a breeze yang, ripples a pond yin, winter's quiet yin feeds spring's growth. Yang, he saw it in human life too. Action needs rest, strength needs softness. Too much yang, rushing, striving, leads to exhaustion. Too much yin, stagnating, withdrawing, leads to inertia. The Taoist way is harmony, where both coexist, breathing as one. A story from the Zhuangzi, a key Taoist text by the later sage Zhuangzi, illustrates this. A farmer's horse ran off one day. Yang, neighbors called it bad luck. It returned with a wild herd yin. They praised his fortune. His son broke a leg taming them. Yang, they sighed again. Then war broke out, and the injury spared him. Yin, they cheered. The farmer stayed calm, saying, "Good, bad, who knows?" Yin and yang shift like seasons. Clinging to one blinds you to the other. Lao Tzu's lesson: don't judge too quickly. Flow with the shifts. Trust their balance. This balance shaped Taoist thought against its era's grain. In the warring states, generals prized yang, more conquest power, building armies to crush rivals. Lao Tzu favored yin's quiet strength. The soft overcomes the hard, he writes in chapter 36. Water wears down rock, not by smashing, but by persisting. A flexible
Id outlast. A rigid oak in a storm. Picture a bamboo grove. Wind yang presses, stalks yen bend, then rise unharmed. This isn't frailty, it's endurance. A power that adapts rather than resists. In daily moments, when plans falter or tensions flare, yin and yang offer a guide. Soften where you'd push, pause where you'd rush, trust where you'd force. Yin and yang also reflect the Taoist view of opposites as complementary. In chapter 42, Lao Tzu writes, "The Tao gives birth to one, one gives birth to two, two gives birth to three, three gives birth to all things." Scholars interpret this as the Tao spawning unity, then duality, yin and yang, then the myriad forms of life. It's a cycle. Everything flows from balance, returns to it. This isn't about picking sides, but seeing the whole, understanding that life's richness lies in its interplay. Wu Wei, the art of effortless action. Now let's explore Wu Wei, a cornerstone of Taoist living, often translated as effortless action or non-doing. It's not about idleness, sitting still while the world spins, but about acting in harmony with the Tao, moving with its flow rather than against it. In chapter 8, Lao Tzu writes, "The highest good is like water. Water gives life to all without striving. Water doesn't rush or boast. It flows naturally, bending around obstacles, pooling in low places, nourishing as it goes." Wu Wei is this: doing what's needed, when it's needed, without strain or struggle. Think of a fisherman casting his net. He doesn't thrash the water or chase every fish. He waits for the tide, drops the net where the current runs, and pulls it in with steady hands. That's Wu Wei, timing over toil, presence over push. Lao Tzu saw this in nature's every motion. The Tao does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. He says in chapter 37, "A tree doesn't strain to grow. It reaches for light, drinks rain, and stretches over seasons. A river doesn't claw its way to the sea. It follows the land's slope, patient and sure." In the warring states, this was revolutionary. Rulers built walls, like the early precursors to the Great Wall, drilled armies, and taxed farmers to exhaustion, all to impose control. Lao Tzu pointed to a different way: the farmer who plants in spring, rests in winter, and trusts the harvest, the heron that stands still until the fish swims near. Wu Wei isn't passive, it's active alignment. In chapter 3 he advises, "Practice not doing, and everything falls into place." This isn't about avoiding effort, but shedding excess, overthinking, over-planning, over-forcing. When you cook, you don't stir the pot every second. You let it simmer, stepping in when the moment's right. A tale from the Zhuangzi brings this to life. Cook Ding carved an ox for a lord, his knife gliding through meat and bone, like a dancer's steps, never dulling, never catching. I don't force it, he said. I follow the natural lines. The lord marveled. Ding shrugged. It's the Tao beyond skill. This is Wu Wei in action. Skill so honed it feels effortless. Movement so natural it flows like breath. In your own moments, writing, gardening, fixing something. It's that state where time fades and the task happens through you. Smooth and calm. Wu Wei offers a lens for living. When stress mounts, deadlines, disputes, don't wrestle it down. Pause, let it settle. Act when the moment aligns. Lao Tzu's water shows this. It doesn't climb or fight. It flows low, finds the cracks and moves on. In conversations, don't rush to reply. Listen, let silence work its quiet magic, then speak. In decisions, don't force a choice. Wait, watch, let clarity rise. This isn't laziness, it's wisdom, trusting the Tao's rhythm to guide you. Simplicity. The virtue of less Taoism holds simplicity as a virtue, not barrenness, but a clearing away of clutter to reveal what's true. In chapter 19, Lao Tzu writes, abandon cleverness, discard profit, and thieves will disappear. He's not against thought or gain, but against the tangle they bring, mental knots, endless wants, that cloud your view. In ancient China, scholars prized complexity, elaborate rituals, intricate laws, but Lao Tzu saw peace in less. Manifest plainness, embrace simplicity, he urges, pointing to a life unburdened by excess. This isn't about stripping everything away but focusing on what serves. A farmer doesn't plant every seed. He chooses the best, gives them space, and watches them grow. A carpenter doesn't hoard tools. He keeps what cuts true, letting the rest go. Lao Tzu saw people chasing more, gold, status, plans, only to stumble under the load. In chapter 48, he contrasts, to pursue learning, one increases daily. To pursue the Tao, one decreases daily. Learning adds, the Tao subtracts noise, rush, overload. Nature lives this daily. A tree sheds leaves in fall, trusting spring's return. A river lets its waters flow, knowing rains will refill it. Lao Tzu watched these cycles and saw a lesson: hold lightly, keep what matters, release what doesn't. In chapter 12, he warns, the 5 colors blind the eye, the 5 tones deafen the ear, the 5 flavors dull the taste. Too much dazzles, then numbs. Simplicity sharpens. In your day, this might mean saying no to extra tasks, choosing quiet over chatter, letting go of old grudges. Each release makes room for clarity. A story from the Lisi fits here. A man obsessed with wealth piled gold in his house. Doors locked, windows barred, thieves broke in, took it all. His neighbor, living simply with an open gate, lost nothing. Thieves saw no prize. Lao Tzu's point, the more you hoard, the more you guard, the less you chase, the less you lose. Simplicity isn't poverty, it's freedom, a lightness that lets you breathe. Practical wisdom from Taoism. Taoism isn't locked in ancient scrolls, it ripples into now. Take Wu, where a friend snaps, tension rises. Yang, don't snap back. Pause Yin, let the heat settle. Reply with calm. Or simplicity, your desk overflows with papers. Don't drown, sort what matters, clear the rest. Lao Tzu's water guides this. It flows in places people reject. He says in chapter 8, when others rush Yang, go low Yin, listen, wait, act when the current's right. In chapter 64, he writes,
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. No grand leaps, just start, steady and sure, facing a big task. Break it down, one piece today, another tomorrow, like water trickling through a dam. When conflict flares, recall chapter 22. Bend and be straight, empty and be full, yield where you'd fight, and strength returns. A tale tells of a swimmer caught in a whirlpool. He dove with it, found its calm center, and surfaced free. Life's swirls are the same. Don't resist. Flow. Find the still point. Closing reflections. Taoism unfolds like a scroll of ancient ink. Its wisdom, a quiet stream through time's noise. Lao Tzu's final verse, chapter 81, offers, the sage stays behind. Thus he is ahead. He gives without seeking reward. This is the way, not grasping, not rushing, but resting in what is. The world turns, the Tao flows, and you're part of its rhythm. Yin and yang, effort and ease, water and stone. Let plans wait, let worries drift, let the way carry you forward, steady and calm.
The stirrings of a modern question existentialism rises from the quiet corners of human thought, a philosophy that took shape in the 19th and 20th centuries, yet echoes questions as old as humanity itself, questions that ripple back to the ancient Greeks, to the Stoics, and even to the restless minds gazing at stars in forgotten times. It's a way of seeing life, not through rigid answers or comforting certainties, but through the lens of freedom, uncertainty, and the vast unknown that stretches before us. Unlike the structured doctrines of religion or the orderly systems of earlier philosophies, existentialism asks you to stand at the edge of existence and look into the abyss, not with fear, but with curiosity, with a willingness to shape what you find there. It's a philosophy born of modernity's turmoil, industrial revolutions, world wars, the unraveling of old beliefs, but its roots reach deep into the human struggle to find meaning in a world that offers no easy map. The story of existentialism begins with Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish thinker born in 1813, often called its father, though he wouldn't have claimed the title. He lived in Copenhagen, a city of cobblestone streets and quiet harbors, during a time when Europe was shifting, science was upending faith, factories were reshaping lives, and the old certainties of God and King were fraying. Kierkegaard, a man of frail health and piercing intellect, wrestled with these changes in his writings, penning works like Fear and Trembling and The Sickness unto Death. He didn't seek to rebuild the world's order. He turned inward, asking how a single person could live authentically in a universe that seemed silent about its purpose. His ideas were a whisper against the roar of his era, a call to face life's uncertainties head-on, to leap into faith or doubt with both eyes open. Later, in the smoke and shadow of post-war Europe, thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus carried this torch into the 20th century. Sartre, born in Paris in 1905, wrote in cafes amid the clatter of cups and the murmur of voices, crafting works like Being and Nothingness. During the 1940s, as France rebuilt from the ruins of World War II, Camus, born in 1913 in French Algeria, penned the myth of Sisyphus under a Mediterranean sun, his words shaped by a world scarred by conflict yet alive with defiance. These men didn't share a single creed. Sartre embraced atheism. Camus wrestled with absurdity, but they agreed on one thing: life has no pre-written script. You're free to write your own, even if the page is blank and the ink uncertain. Though existentialism is modern, its questions echo ancient voices. The Stoics, centuries earlier, faced life's unpredictability with calm resolve, teaching that meaning comes from within, not from fate. Socrates, wandering Athens in the 5th century BCE, prodded his fellows to question everything, to live examined lives. Existentialism takes these threads and weaves them into a tapestry of freedom. Freedom that can feel like a burden or a gift, depending on how you hold it. It's a philosophy that doesn't promise peace, but offers a way to find it, a way to embrace the unknown as a canvas rather than a void. The heart of existence, freedom and responsibility. At the center of existentialism lies a single, unshakable truth. You are free. Sartre put it starkly in Being and Nothingness. Man is condemned to be free, because once thrown into the world, he is responsible for everything he does. This freedom isn't the kind you celebrate with banners or songs. It's deeper, heavier, a freedom that begins where certainties end. Imagine waking in a vast open field. No paths, no signs, just grass stretching to the horizon. You can walk anywhere, build anything, but there's no guide to tell you where or how. That's existential freedom. No God, no fate, no cosmic plan hands you meaning. You must craft it yourself. This idea grew from a world unmoored. By Kierkegaard's time, the Enlightenment had chipped away at religious dogma. Copernicus had displaced Earth from the universe's center. Darwin would soon unravel humanity's divine origin. By Sartre's era, 2 world wars had shattered faith in progress, leaving cities in rubble and millions questioning why. Existentialism stepped into this gap, saying if the old answers are gone, you're not lost, you're liberated. Sartre argued that existence precedes essence, meaning you're born without a fixed purpose. A knife has an essence, to cut, crafted before it exists. But you exist first, raw and unscripted, free to define your essence through choices. This freedom comes with weight. Kierkegaard saw it as a dreadful freedom, a vertigo that hits when you realize every step is yours to take and yours to answer for. In Fear and Trembling, he retells Abraham's story. God commands him to sacrifice Isaac, his son, and Abraham must choose faith over reason, obedience over doubt. Kierkegaard uses this to probe the leap of faith, a plunge into the unknown, trusting your own path despite its uncertainty. Sartre, an atheist, stripped away faith's comfort. There is no reality except in action, he wrote. You're responsible for what you do. No excuses, no higher power to blame. This can feel daunting, freedom without a net, but it's also empowering. The Stoics, centuries before, touched this idea. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Existentialism takes it further. Your mind doesn't just endure, it creates. A farmer in a drought can't stop the rain from failing. He can plant anew, adapt, or despair. His choice shapes his world. Sartre saw this in wartime France. People under occupation could resist, collaborate, or hide, each act defining who they became. Your life, too, is a series of choices, each one a brushstroke on an open canvas. Facing the absurd, Camus' defiant calm. Existentialism doesn't shy from life's strangeness, what Camus called the absurd. In the myth of Sisyphus, he frames it, humans crave meaning, but the universe stays silent. Picture Sisyphus, the Greek figure, doomed to push a boulder up a hill forever, only for it to roll down each time he nears the top. That's the absurd, the clash between our longing for purpose and reality's indifference. Camus didn't see this as despair. He saw it as a challenge. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. He wrote, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." This isn't blind optimism, it's defiance. Camus rejected Sartre's heavy freedom for a lighter stance. Accept the absurd, then live anyway. In ancient times, the Stoics met a similar void. Seneca wrote of life's brevity, its chaos, yet urged calm acceptance. Camus builds on this. Don't flee the unknown, or invent gods to fill it. Face it, create your own light. A baker kneads dough each dawn, knowing his bread will be eaten and forgotten, yet he bakes, finding purpose in the act. A soldier rebuilds a bombed village, knowing war might strike again, yet he lays the bricks.
Camus admired this quiet rebellion, this choice to live fully despite the absurd.
Sartre saw freedom as a burden. Camus saw it as a spark.
In The Stranger, his character Mersault lives simply, unjudged by life's lack of meaning, eating, swimming, loving, until society demands he conform. Camus' lesson, the absurd, doesn't crush you unless you let it. Like Lao Tzu's water flowing low, you can move with life's oddity, not against it, finding calm in its quirks. Authenticity, living your truth. Existentialism calls you to authenticity, to live as yourself, not as others expect. Camus' guard railed against the crowd, the herd that pulls you into routine, into roles you didn't choose. In The Sickness Unto Death, he warns of despair, not from pain, but from losing yourself to convention. Sartre echoed this in No Exit. Hell is other people, he wrote, meaning the trap of living for their gaze, not your own. In ancient Athens, Socrates faced this, prodded to conform. He chose death over silence, staying true to his questions. Authenticity means facing your freedom, owning your choices. A merchant in a busy market could chase every coin, pleasing every customer, or sell what he believed, risking loss for integrity. His path defines him. Sartre saw this in wartime. Some joined the resistance, others hid, each choice a mirror of their soul. Camus' card tied it to faith, a personal leap, not a borrowed creed. You might feel this in small ways, saying no to a demand that doesn't fit you, crafting a life that reflects your core, not society's script. Practical lessons from the unknown. Existentialism offers tools for living. Freedom means every day is yours to shape. Start a project, mend a bond, walk a new path. Responsibility means owning those choices, no excuses. Camus' absurd teaches resilience. When plans fail, laugh, adapt, keep going. Authenticity urges honesty. Shed masks, live true. The Stoics laid groundwork. Epictetus said, make the best use of what is in your power. But existentialism adds, make it yours, make it matter. A quiet reflection. Existentialism stands at life's edge, gazing into the unknown, not to solve it, but to live it. Camus' belief, Sartre's freedom, Camus' defiance. They echo ancient calls to face the world as it is, to craft meaning where none is given. The Tao flows, the Stoics endure, and here, existentialism dares you to choose. Life is open, uncertain, yours. Step into it, calm and clear.
The soul's ascent, returning to unity. Neoplatonism sees the soul as a divine spark, fallen into matter, longing to rise. We are here as exiles. Plotinus writes in Ennids, I.6, our task is to awaken, to turn from shadows to the light. This ascent climbs 3 stages: purification, contemplation, union. First, purify. Shed the body's pulls, wealth's glitter, fame's clamor. A merchant in Alexandria counts coins. Plotinus urges him to count virtues, to free his soul from gold's weight. The body is a chain, he says in Ennids, I.8, senses clouding truth, taste shifts, eyes tire, reason clears the haze. Next, contemplate, gaze inward at the intellect's forms. In Ennids v.1 he counsels, withdraw into yourself and look. If you do not find beauty there, cut away until you do. A sculptor chisels marble, not to hoard, but to see beauty itself. A poet pens verse, not for applause but truth. Finally, union, merge with the one, a fleeting ecstasy beyond words. The soul becomes what it beholds. He writes in Ennids v.9, a vision Plotinus claimed to reach. Porphyry notes 4 times in his Life of Plotinus. In Rome, where Christians prayed and Stoics endured, this ascent stood apart, not endurance, but transcendence. not faith, but knowing. This echoed Plato's cave, shadows to sun, yet Plotinus climbed higher, past forms, to their source. Alexandria's mix, Jewish mystics, Gnostic seers, shaped this. India's Upanishads, glimpsed on his travels, whispered of Brahman, a unity, akin to the One. In an empire of colosseums and crumbling aqueducts, his lesson soars, rise above the fleeting, seek the eternal, find peace in the soul's return, emanation and hierarchy. A cosmos of order. Neoplatonism maps a cosmos of descending order, the One, intellect, soul, matter, a chain linking infinite to finite. All things proceed from the One. Plotinus writes in Ennids, v.2, like light from the sun, weakening with distance. The One is pure unity, intellect, its first reflection, ideas like justice, alive, thinking themselves. Soul animates, stars wheel, vines grow, humans reason, a mediator splitting into higher contemplative and lower worldly halves. Matter lies lowest, a shadow of form, not evil, as Gnostics claimed, but dim, yearning for light. Matter is a receptacle, he says in Ennids Diz. 4, clay awaiting the potter's hand. This hierarchy mirrored Rome's world. Emperors ruled, senators advised, farmers toiled, yet Plotinus flipped it. True rank is the soul's nearness to the One. A slave in Ostia, pondering virtue, outshines a consul chasing power. The universe is a living whole, he writes in Ennids 4:3. Each part, star, tree, man, tied to the rest, reflecting the One's unity in diversity. Unlike Aristotle's teleology, purpose in things, Plotinus saw purpose as return. Unlike Epicurus's atoms, he saw spirit. In a fracturing empire, Diocletian split east and west in 284 CE. His lesson binds all is one. Order flows from above. Peace lies in seeing the whole. Practical Neoplatonism, living toward the divine. Neoplatonism offers a path to live this vision. Purify. A merchant trades not for greed, but need, shedding excess. A soldier fights not for glory, but duty, releasing pride. Cut away the superfluous. Plotinus urges in Ennids Diz. 6. Trim life to its essence. Contemplate. A farmer gazes at his field, not crops alone, but growth's beauty. A scribe pens not for pay, but wisdom's spark. Seek the good within, he writes in Ennids Diz. 5. Reason lifts, beauty guides. Union is rare, Plotinus calls it the flight of the alone to the alone in Ennids Diz. 9. But its pursuit calms, a healer tends a wound, not for thanks, but the One's echo in care. A poet crafts, not for fame but unity's glimpse. In Rome, Nero's fire, 64 CE. Aurelian's walls, 271 CE. Plotinus taught amid chaos, the soul's home is above, he says in Ennids 4:8. Community reflects this. Love is the bond. Porphyry echoes help a neighbor, share a meal, see the One in all. In an empire's dusk, Constantine's rise in 306 CE. His lesson ascends, turn inward, rise upward, find peace in the eternal. A legacy beyond time. Neoplatonism shines through the ages, a philosophy of unity, born in Rome's twilight, yet stretching beyond. Plotinus One, intellect, soul, they whisper a lesson beyond. Chaos lies harmony, beyond matter, spirit, beyond the self, the all. Stoics endure, Aristotelians reason, Platonists seek, here Neoplatonists ascend, calm in the rise. The world hums, empires fade, and you carry this wisdom forward, steady and free, a path to the infinite, woven from the quiet of this night. Penning words and trembling, and the didn't seek to rebuild the world, turned inward, asking how a single person in a universe that seemed a whisper against the roar of to face life's uncertainty. Or Europe, thinkers and Albert Camus. '05 wrote of cups and the murmur of voices. Built from the ruins of World War. Born in 1930, penned the myth of Sisyphus under a Mediterranean, yet alive with defiance. These men didn't written script. Even if the page is Existentialism is modern. Earlier, faced life's unpredictability with calm resolve, teaching that meaning comes from fate. Socrates prodded his fellows to question everything. Existentialism takes these three or a gift. It's a philosophy to embrace the unknown as a canvas rather than a void, the heart of existence. Responsibility at the being and nothingness. Man is responsible for everything. Isn't the kind you celebrate with banners or songs. No cosmic plan. You must craft it yourself. This idea grew from a world unmoored by the Enlightenment had chipped away at religious dogma. Humanity's divine origin. Existentialism step. In essence, to cut, crafted before it exists, but you find your essence through choice. Comes with weight. Kierkegaard saw it as a dreadful freedom, a vertigo that hits when you God commands him to sacrifice Isaac, his son. Obedience over doubt. Kierkegaard uses this to probe the leap of faith. Uncertainty. Sartre responsible for what you do, no excuse. It's also empowering. His world, Sartre. People under occupation could resist. Your life, too, is a series of choices, each one a brushstroke. He frames it, humans crave meaning. But picture Sisyphus, doomed to push a boulder up a hill forever. Only each time he nears the top. That's the absurd, the clash between our longing for purpose and reality's indifference. Camus didn't see this as despair. He saw it as a challenge. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. He wrote, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy. This isn't blind optimism, it's defiance." Camus rejected Sartre's heavy freedom for a lighter stance. Accept the absurd, then live anyway. In ancient times, the Stoics met a similar void. Seneca wrote of life's brevity, its chaos, yet urged calm acceptance. Camus builds on this. Don't flee the unknown, or invent gods to fill it. Face it, create your own light. A baker kneads dough each dawn, knowing his bread will be eaten and forgotten, yet he bakes, finding purpose in the act. A soldier rebuilds a bombed village, knowing war might strike again, yet he lays the bricks. Camus admired this quiet rebellion, this choice to live fully, despite the absurd. Sartre saw freedom as a burden. Camus saw it as a spark. In The Stranger, his character Meursault lives simply, unjudged by life's lack of meaning, eating, swimming, loving, until society demands he conform. Camus' lesson, the absurd, doesn't crush you unless you let it. Like Lao Tzu's water flowing low, you can move with life's oddity, not against it, finding calm in its quirks. Authenticity, living your truth. Existentialism calls you to authenticity, to live as yourself, not as others expect. Camus' guard railed against the crowd, the herd that pulls you into routine, into roles you didn't choose. In The Sickness Unto Death, he warns of despair, not from pain, but from losing yourself to convention. Sartre echoed this in No Exit. Hell is other people, he wrote, meaning the trap of living for their gaze, not your own. In ancient Athens, Socrates faced this, prodded to conform. He chose death over silence, staying true to his questions. Authenticity means facing your freedom, owning your choices. A merchant in a busy market could chase every coin, pleasing every customer, or sell what he believed, risking loss for integrity. His path defines him. Sartre saw this in wartime. Some joined the resistance, others hid, each choice a mirror of their soul. Camus' card tied it to faith, a personal leap, not a borrowed creed. You might feel this in small ways, saying no to a demand that doesn't fit you, crafting a life that reflects your core, not society's script. Practical lessons from the unknown. Existentialism offers tools for living. Freedom means every day is yours to shape. Start a project, mend a bond, walk a new path. Responsibility means owning those choices, no excuses. Camus' absurd teaches resilience. When plans fail, laugh, adapt, keep going. Authenticity urges honesty. Shed masks, live true. The Stoics laid groundwork. Epictetus said, make the best use of what is in your power. But existentialism adds, make it yours, make it matter. A quiet reflection. Existentialism stands at life's edge, gazing into the unknown, not to solve it, but to live it. Camus' belief, Sartre's freedom, Camus' defiance. They echo ancient calls to face the world as it is, to craft meaning where none is given. The Tao flows, the Stoics endure, and here, existentialism dares you to choose. Life is open, uncertain, yours. Step into it, calm and clear. The soul's ascent, returning to unity. Spark, fallen into matter, longing. Task is to awaken those to the light. This shed the body's pulls, wealth's glitter. A merchant in Alexandria, Plotinus urges him to count virtues, to free his soul. The body is a chain. Iv.8. At the intellect's forms, in Enid's v. And look, if you do not cut away until you do. .9, a vision, Plotinus claimed to reach. Porphyry notes 4 times in his life. Prayed and Stoics endured. Not faith. Yet Plotinus climbed forms to their source. Glimpsed on his travels. A unity, akin to the one, in an empire of colosseums and rise above the eternal, find peace. Order Neoplatonism. 1. Intellect, soul, matter, a chain linking infinite. The roots of a bold rebellion, Cynicism, strides forth from the dusty streets and sunlit marketplaces of ancient Greece, a philosophy born in the 4th century BCE, amidst a world of marble temples, clashing armies, and the hum of intellectual debate. It emerged not from grand academies or polished scrolls, but from the raw, unfiltered lives of men who chose to strip away society's trappings and live as nature intended, free, simple, and unburdened. This was a time of upheaval in Greece. The golden age of Pericles had faded by the late 5th century BCE, giving way to the Peloponnesian War, 431–404 BCE, a brutal conflict between Athens and Sparta that left both cities scarred and their once proud democracies weakened. By the time Alexander the Great swept through, in the 330s BCE, his conquests knitting an empire from Greece to India, the old city-states were shadows of their former glory, caught in the tides of Macedonian rule and the shifting alliances of his successors, the Diadochi. Athens, though diminished, remained a beacon of thought. Socrates had walked its streets decades earlier, executed in 399 BCE for challenging convention. Plato's Academy and Aristotle's Lyceum thrived, shaping minds with structured philosophies. Into this mix came Antisthenes, a disciple of Socrates born around 445 BCE, who is often credited as Cynicism's founder. He was an Athenian of humble stock, his mother a Thracian, possibly a slave, his father a citizen, lacking the wealth that marked the city's elite. Antisthenes studied with Socrates, absorbing his knack for questioning norms, but where Socrates prodded with words, Antisthenes took it further, living a life that defied the comforts and pretensions of his peers. He taught at the Cynicism, a gymnasium outside Athens' walls, a place for those of mixed birth. Its name, meaning white dog, would later echo in Cynicism's very title, kynikos, or dog-like, a badge of defiance worn with pride. Diogenes of Sinope, born around 412 BCE, in a Black Sea colony, became Cynicism's most famous voice, taking Antisthenes' ideas to the streets, literally exiled from Sinope for allegedly defacing coins. He arrived in Athens with nothing but a cloak and a staff, choosing to live in a clay wine jar, a pythos, in the agora, the city's bustling heart. Diogenes didn't write treatises. His philosophy was his life, a public performance of simplicity and freedom that mocked the era's excesses. In a Greece where philosophers wore fine robes and kings built palaces, cynics like Antisthenes and Diogenes shed it all, living as dogs to bark at society's illusions. Their ideas rippled beyond Athens. Crates of Thebes carried them forward. Zeno of Citium adapted them into Stoicism, offering a raw, life-changing lesson. Live lightly, need little, and find peace in what's true. Virtue over vanity. The cynic's core cynicism rests on a single, unshakable principle. Virtue is the only good, and it's found in living according to nature, free from society's chains. Antisthenes distilled this from Socrates, who'd said, "The unexamined life is not worth living," but turned it into action. Virtue isn't in words or wealth, but in shedding pretense, in aligning with what's essential. "I'd rather go mad than feel pleasure," Antisthenes reportedly quipped, a jab at luxury's hollow allure, not a rejection of joy, but of its fleeting, artificial forms. For him, true pleasure lay in self-sufficiency, in needing nothing beyond what nature provides. Diogenes lived this fiercely. Ancient sources like Diogenes Laertius, writing in the 3rd century CE, recount his days in Athens' agora, wearing a coarse cloak, eating lentils from a wooden bowl, sleeping in his jar. When he saw a boy drinking from his hands, he tossed his cup, saying, "A child has beaten me in plainness of living." This wasn't showmanship, it was a lesson. Strip away the unnecessary and virtue shines. In a city where citizens prized fine tunics and olive oil feasts, Diogenes walked barefoot, mocking their excess. "Men fight over gold," he'd say, "when dirt is free." This grew from Greece's contrasts. Athens in the 4th century BCE buzzed with trade. Ships from Egypt unloaded grain, potters sold red figure vases, yet poverty lingered. Slaves outnumbered citizens, and wars drained the polis. The wealthy built homes with frescoed walls, while farmers scratched barley from rocky soil. Cynics saw this gap and turned away. Why chase what enslaves you? Fame and wealth are chains, Antisthenes taught, echoing Socrates' disdain for material lures. Diogenes took it further. When Alexander the Great, ruler of half the known world, visited him in Corinth around 336 BCE. Standing over his jar, the conqueror offered, "Ask me anything." Diogenes, sunning himself, replied, "Stand out of my light." Virtue, not power, was his prize. Cynics defined virtue as autarkia, self-sufficiency, and ascese, discipline through simplicity. A farmer plowing fields with a wooden hoe embodies this. He needs no palace, no gold, just earth and hands. Diogenes ate what he found, scraps, wild herbs, drank from streams, slept where he stood, proving life's essentials are few. In a Greece where Stoics sought virtue through reason, and Epicureans through tranquil pleasure, Cynicism cut sharper. Drop the baggage, live raw, and freedom follows. Nature as teacher. Rejecting convention, cynics look to nature, not society, for guidance. Live according to nature, Antisthenes urged, meaning strip away civilization's layers, laws, customs, luxuries, and align with what's innate. Diogenes watched animals, dogs roaming free, needing no roofs, birds nesting with twigs, not gold, and saw a model. Man has complicated every simple gift of the gods, he grumbled, tossing aside bowls when hands sufficed, cloaks when skin endured. In Athens, where citizens draped themselves in dyed wool and slept on carved beds, this was defiance, a return to the primal, a rejection of artifice. This stance challenged Greece's norms. Temples to Apollo and Athena rose high, their priests chanting hymns. Laws governed everything from marriage to market weights. Diogenes mocked this, urinating in public to scorn propriety, shouting at orators to pierce their pomp. When asked why, he'd say, "I'm a citizen of the cosmos," rejecting polis loyalty for a universal freedom. Antisthenes taught at synagogues outside Athens' walls, symbolizing this break beyond the city's rules, closer to Earth's truth. A famous tale captures this. Plato, defining man as a featherless biped, lectured proudly until Diogenes barged in, plucking a chicken, and tossed it at his feet. "Here's your man." Laughter erupted. Plato's polish met cynic grit. Diogenes didn't debate, he acted, showing nature's lessons trump theory. Crates of theory. A wealthy pupil turned cynic, gave away his fortune, living with his wife Hipparchia in the streets. Nature's way, not society's, guided them. In a world of war and wealth, Philip II of Macedon amassed gold. Alexander conquered cities. Cynics stood apart. "The only true commonwealth is the universe," Diogenes said, "a cosmos needing no kings or coins." This wasn't escapism, it was liberation, a life-changing lesson to shed what weighs you down, to find virtue in what's free. Freedom through shamelessness, defying the crowd. Cynicism embraced shamelessness, parousia, bold speech, as a path to freedom. Diogenes lived this in Athens' Agora, a public square of merchants, priests, and politicians. He bathed there, ate there, even relieved himself there, grinning at shocked onlookers. "Dogs do it," he'd say, "why not me?" This wasn't crude, it was a challenge. Why bow to rules that bind you? When scolded for indecency, he'd retort, "If it's natural, it's not shameful." In a Greece where honor, Timik, ruled, where citizens guarded reputations like gold, this was explosive. Antisthenes laid the groundwork. Virtue is sufficient for happiness, he taught, needing no applause or approval. Diogenes pushed it further, heckling Plato's lectures, begging from statues to practice rejection. When captured by pirates and sold as a slave in Crete, he told buyers, "I'm fit to rule you," turning bondage into a jest. This shamelessness freed him. Others' scorn couldn't touch a man who cared not for it. "Most men are so close to insanity," he'd say. "They miss it by a finger's breadth," a jab at a world chasing shadows. This defied Athens' ethos. Citizens wore masks of dignity, philosophers in fine cloaks, generals in bronze, yet cynics bared all, laughing at pretense. Crates, shedding wealth, danced in rags with Hipparchia. Their love, a public defiance of decorum. In a society where shame policed behavior, cynicism offered a lesson. Drop the mask, live true, and peace follows. Practical cynicism, a life unburdened. Cynicism's lessons are stark, practical, life-changing, need little. Diogenes carried a cloak, staff, bowl until he ditched it, proving essentials fit in your hands. A farmer plows with what he has, eats what grows. Why want more? Reject convention. Antisthenes wore threadbare clothes. Diogenes spurned houses. A merchant could trade without greed. A soldier fight without glory. Virtue lies in the act, not the reward. Speak freely. Diogenes barked at kings. Crates mocked wealth. A craftsman could shrug at criticism. A parent teach without bowing to norms. Adapt to circumstances, Diogenes said, rolling his jaw when builders moved it. Flexibility over rigidity. In Greece, where wars uprooted lives, Persian invasions, Macedonian conquests, cynics thrived anywhere, needing nothing but themselves. The only slavery is dependence. Antisthenes taught, freedom comes from within, not from what you own. A legacy of lightness. Cynicism echoes through time, a philosophy of living lightly born on Athens' streets, yet stretching beyond. Diogenes' jar, Antisthenes' synagogues, Crates' rags, they whisper a lesson. Shed the heavy, embrace the free. The Tao flows, Epicureans savor, existentialists choose. Here cynics stand bare,
Calm in a heavy world, life hums, conventions fade, and you carry their wisdom forward, simple and strong.
The seeds of doubt in a world of certitude. Skepticism takes root in the sun-dappled groves and shadowed porticos of ancient Greece, a philosophy that emerged in the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE amidst a landscape of marble temples, bustling marketplaces, and the ceaseless murmur of intellectual discourse. It's a way of thought born not from the bold proclamations of truth or the rigid frameworks of dogma, but from the gentle, persistent strength of doubt. A quiet refusal to grasp at certainties in an era when philosophers, priests, and rulers staked their lives on unwavering answers. This was a time of profound transformation in Greece, a period shaped by the fading echoes of a once golden age and the rise of new powers that would redraw the ancient world's map. The Peloponnesian War, fought between Athens and Sparta from 431 to 404 BCE, had left both city-states battered, Athens' navy crippled, Sparta's alliances frayed, ushering in a decline that saw their democratic ideals give way to exhaustion and vulnerability. By the late 4th century BCE, Alexander the Great's meteoric conquests had swept across Greece, Persia, Egypt, and India, forging an empire that stretched from the Ionian Sea to the Hindu Kush. His death in 323 BCE at Babylon splintered this vast dominion into rival kingdoms, ruled by the Diadochi, Ptolemy in Egypt, Seleucus in Asia, Antigonus, and his heirs in Macedon and Greece, whose competing ambitions turned the Mediterranean into a chessboard of trade, war, and shifting loyalties. Athens, though no longer the political titan of its 5th century peak, remained a luminous center of thought. Socrates had roamed its streets decades earlier, executed in 399 BCE for challenging the city's gods and customs with his relentless questions. Plato's Academy, founded around 387 BCE, stood just outside the city walls, weaving grand theories of eternal forms. Aristotle's Lyceum, established in 335 BCE, buzzed with students dissecting the natural world, plants, animals, stars with meticulous care. The Agora, Athens' bustling heart, echoed with the voices of merchants hawking olives and pottery, poets reciting verses, and philosophers debating the nature of justice, virtue, and the cosmos. Into this vibrant, contentious intellectual scene stepped Pyrrho of Elis, born around 360 BCE, often regarded as Skepticism's founding figure. Pyrrho came from Elis, a modest city in the Peloponnese, far from Athens' urban clamor, known more for hosting the Olympic Games every 4 years than for philosophical fame. His early life was unremarkable. He studied with the Megarian philosophers, followers of Euclid of Megara, who delighted in logical puzzles, and later joined Alexander's army on its eastward march, reaching as far as India by 326 BCE. There, amid the dusty plains and bustling bazaars of the Gandhara region, he encountered gymnosophists, naked ascetics, and Brahmin sages, whose teachings on the elusiveness of truth and the peace of detachment struck a chord. Returning to Greece, Pyrrho didn't carve out a grand school or pen voluminous works like his contemporaries. He lived his philosophy, wandering the roads of Elis and beyond, with a calm, untroubled air, questioning everything with a gentle, persistent curiosity that left no stone unturned. His ideas were carried forward by others. Timon of Phlius, his student, preserved fragments of his thought. Arcesilaus, born around 316 BCE, reshaped Plato's Academy into the Middle Academy by the mid-3rd century BCE, infusing it with skeptical doubt. Carneades, born in 214 BC, led the new academy a century later, dazzling Rome's elite with his balanced arguments, and Sextus Empiricus, a physician-philosopher of the 1st or 2nd century CE, codified skepticism in works like Outlines of Pyrrhonism and Against the Dogmatists. In a Greece where Stoics preached certainty through reason, Epicureans sought it in pleasure's calm, and priests found it in the smoke of sacrificial altars. Skepticism offered a life-changing lesson: question all, hold nothing as absolute, and find tranquility in the embrace of uncertainty. Epoche, the suspension of belief. At the core of skepticism lies epoche, suspension of judgment, a deliberate pause before declaring anything definitively true or false. Pyrrho taught that we cannot pierce the veil of reality's essence. Our senses and minds shape what we perceive, delivering impressions, not unassailable facts. Things are equally indifferent, unmeasurable, and inarbitrable, he argued, as relayed by Timon, meaning no claim about God's nature or virtue stands above its opposite with certainty. A tree appears green to your eyes, rough to your touch, but is it truly so, or do sight and sensation mislead? A Stoic asserts virtue's knowability through reason. An Epicurean insists pleasure's clarity through experience. Pyrrho's response was a calm shrug. Perhaps, perhaps not. This wasn't a rejection of the world. It was a humble acknowledgement of its mystery, a step back from the fray of dogmatic battles. Sextus Empiricus, centuries later, gave this structure in Outlines of Pyrrhonism. Skeptics neither affirm nor deny. We say what appears to us and suspend judgment on what lies beyond. He outlined modes to foster doubt, 10 from Pyrrho's circle, later refined by Enicedemus around the 1st century BCE. Tools to unsettle certainty. One mode notes perception's variability. Honey tastes sweet to a healthy tongue, bitter to a fevered one. A tower looms large up close, shrinks from a distance. Who's right? Another highlights custom. Greeks burn their dead, Persians eat theirs. Who's right is true. To every argument an equal argument opposes. Sextus wrote, a principle called isosthenia, equal strength, leaving no side triumphant, no victor crowned. Judgment halts, and with it the clamor of conviction quiets. This approach stemmed from Greece's philosophical crucible. In Athens' agora, thinkers clashed. Plato's forms promised eternal truth. Aristotle's logic pinned reality to categories. Yet Pyrrho saw cracks. A dog barks. Is it friend or threat? Context shifts the answer. Why settle on one? His travels in India deepened this. Gymno-sophists debated beneath banyan trees, questioning the self's reality. Buddhist monks he may have met spoke of impermanence. Nothing fixed, nothing sure. Back in Elis, Pyrrho lived this doubt with serene consistency. Sextus recounts a tale. A cart nearly hit him. Friends yanked him aside. He smiled. I saw no cause to call it dangerous. Was he reckless? No, calm, trusting life's flow over his own frail grasp. Aristotelianism carried this into the Middle Academy, challenging Plato's airs. Nothing can be known with certainty, he argued, debating Stoics like Zeno of Citium, who claimed reason's lens was clear. Carneades refined it further, visiting Rome in 155 BCE. As an ambassador, he argued justice's merits before senators one day, then its flaws the next, showing both held weight. Sextus catalogued these moves, dismantling claims philosophical, scientific, moral, with equal counterclaims. The sun's size, he'd ask, observers differ, tools falter. Why choose? In a world of warring truths, Stoic logos, Epicurean atoms, skepticism offered a lesson. Pause, weigh, let peace settle where certainty cannot. Ataraxia, tranquility. Through letting go, skepticism's goal wasn't endless questioning but ataraxia, peace of mind found by releasing the need to know. Pyrrho embodied this. Sextus tells of him walking cliffs calmly, untroubled by peril. Friends guided him, He trusted without fuss. By suspending judgment, we attain tranquility, Sextus wrote, explaining that clinging to this is true breeds anxiety, defending it, fearing its loss, while letting go soothes. A farmer tills soil. Will rain bless or drown his crop? He can't know. Floods or drought loom. So he sows, waits, rests in doubt's embrace. This stood apart in Greece's landscape. Stoics like Epictetus sought peace through rational mastery. Make the best of what's in your power, he urged, building certainty from reason's bricks. Epicureans like Epicurus found it in pleasure's calm. Fear not gods nor death, he taught, grounding it in atom's dance. Skeptics sidestepped both. Why wrestle reason or pleasure when neither proves final? Athens' oracles, Delphi's Pythia, perched above her chasm, promised divine clarity. Kings like Croesus consulted her, only to fall when her riddles misled. Pyrrho offered another way. Things are no more this than that, he'd say, a refrain dissolving worry's grip. Carneades honed this in Rome, facing Stoic giants like Chrysippus. If I know this apple's red, how? He'd probe senses shift, minds twist, leaving no solid ground. Yet he lived practically, eating, teaching, debating, showing doubt needn't stall life. Sextus added, we follow appearances without belief. Buy bread if it looks fresh, not because it's truly good. Walk a path if it seems safe, not because it's truly so. In a Greece of upheaval, Peloponnesian losses, Alexander's wars, Diadochi rivalry, skeptics thrived amid flux, unmoored yet steady. Ataraxia follows epoche like a shadow, Sextus wrote, a lesson to let go of the quest for sure answers, finding calm where others chase, questioning authority. A calm, defiant skepticism defied authority with quiet strength. Gods, kings, sages, Pyrrho brushed off priests' omens. Thunder was weather's clash, not Zeus's voice. A bird's flight carried no divine weight. Custom differs, he noted. Greeks honored with olive wreaths. Persians praised Ahura Mazda with fire, whose truth holds. In Athens, where impiety was a crime, Socrates drank hemlock for it. Pyrrho lived untroubled, his doubt a shield. Arcesilos turned this on the Academy's legacy. Plato's forms eternal truths, unprovable, he argued, shaking tradition's roots. Carneades startled Rome's elite in 155 BC, sent as an ambassador with stoic and peripatetic peers. He praised justice's nobility one day, then its fragility the next, leaving senators read both sides balance. He'd say dismantling dogma with poise. Sextus Empiricus, centuries later, filled against the dogmatists with this: physics, ethics, geometry, each claim met an equal counterclaim. Who knows the sun's size? He'd ask. Ptolemy's measures clashed with others. Certainty crumbled in a Greece of oracles and rulers. Philip II's edicts, Alexander's triumphs. Skeptics stood apart, questioning without revolt, finding peace in not bowing. A tale of Pyrrho shines. A dog bit him. He winced, then shrugged. Maybe it's not pain. Friends laughed. He grinned unshaken. Another. He spoke to a wall. When no one listened, practice for silence. He quipped. This wasn't madness. It was freedom. A lesson to hold life's weights lightly, to question their hold. Practical skepticism. Living with open hands. Skepticism's wisdom is practical. A guide for daily ease. Suspend judgment. A merchant haggles. Is the price fair? Maybe. He trades, doesn't cling to right. A farmer plants, will rain come? Unknown. He sows, waits, adapts. Follow appearances. Sextus urged. Eat if hungry, rest if weary, without needing absolute proof. Question dogma. A priest predicts ruin. A king demands fealty. Why trust? A sailor charts stars. Do they guide or mislead? He steers, adjusts, trusts the journey. Oppose everything.
Carneades taught, not with fury, but balance. Each yes meets a no, easing strife. A baker needs dough. Is it perfect? Maybe he bakes. Sells moves on. A soldier fights. Is victory sure? Doubtful. He wields his spear. Rests when done. In Greece's chaos. Persian wars. Macedonian rule. Skeptics thrived, needing no anchor but doubt. Peace comes from letting go. Pero lived, calm amid storms. A lesson to hold life loosely, to find ease in not knowing. A legacy of gentle inquiry. Skepticism whispers through time, a philosophy of doubt, born in Greece's dust, yet stretching beyond. Pero's calm, Aristotelianis's debates, Carneades' balance, Sextus's words. They offer a life-changing lesson. Question frees, peace follows. The Stoics reasoned, Epicureans savoured, cynics shed. Here skeptics ponder, steady in uncertainty. The world hums, certainties fade, and you carry their wisdom forward, open and calm.
A vision born in Athens' golden age, Platonism rises like a beacon from the sunlit streets and olive-shaded hills of ancient Greece, a philosophy that took shape in the 4th century BCE amidst a world of marble temples, bustling agoras, and the vibrant pulse of intellectual inquiry. It's a way of thought born from the mind of Plato, a man whose ideas stretched beyond the fleeting shadows of his time to seek eternal truths, offering a lens through which to see the world not as it appears, but as it might truly be. This was an era of both brilliance and turbulence in Greece. The 5th century BCE had been Athens' golden age, a time when the city's navy ruled the Aegean. Its dramatists like Sophocles filled theatres with tales of gods and fate, and its architects crowned the Acropolis with the Parthenon's gleaming columns. The Persian Wars 479 BCE had tested Greece's mettle with victories at Marathon and Salamis, forging a fragile unity among city-states like Athens, Sparta, and Thebes. But by Plato's birth around 428 BCE, this unity had frayed. The Peloponnesian War, 431-404 BCE, pitted Athens against Sparta in a decades-long struggle that drained both powers, leaving Athens defeated, its democracy humbled, and its walls breached by Spartan forces in 404 BCE. Into this shifting landscape came Plato, born Aristocles, to an aristocratic family in Athens, a city still reeling from war, yet alive with thought. His father, Ariston, traced lineage to early Athenian kings. His mother, Perictione, linked to Solon, the lawgiver who shaped the city's democracy. Plato's early years unfolded amid political chaos. Sparta installed the 30 tyrants, a brutal oligarchy, in 404 BCE, including his uncle Critias and cousin Charmides, only for democracy to reclaim Athens a year later. This upheaval marked him, steering him from politics toward philosophy. Around 407 BCE, at age 20, he met Socrates, a stonemason's son turned gadfly, whose relentless questioning of justice, virtue, and truth captivated the young aristocrat. Socrates' execution in 399 BCE, forced to drink hemlock for corrupting youth and impiety, seared Plato's soul, igniting a lifelong quest to preserve his mentor's legacy and seek wisdom beyond the city's strife. Plato founded the Academy around 387 BCE, a school just outside Athens' walls near the Grove of Academus, a sanctuary of olive trees and quiet paths. Unlike the Stoa or the Garden, it wasn't a retreat, but a hub. Students gathered to wrestle with mathematics, astronomy, and dialogue, a training ground for minds seeking eternal truths. His works, The Republic, Phaedo, Symposium, written as dialogues with Socrates as the voice, spread his ideas across Greece, influencing thinkers like Aristotle, born 384 BCE, who studied there for 20 years. In a world of war and flux, Alexander's empire rose after Plato's death in 347 BCE. Platonism offered a life-changing lesson. Look beyond the shadows, seek the real, and find peace in the eternal. The world of forms, beyond the visible. Platonism's heart is the theory of forms, a vision that the world we see, trees, chairs, justice, is a shadow of a higher reality. In the Republic, Plato unfolds this through Socrates. There's a realm of perfect forms, beauty itself, justice itself, unchanging, eternal, beyond the senses. A carpenter crafts a table. It wobbles, wears, breaks, but the form of table, perfect and timeless, exists beyond. Our eyes catch glimpses, our minds grasp truths. What's seen is temporal, Socrates says in Phaedo. What's known is eternal. This isn't fantasy, it's a call to seek what lasts. Plato's allegory of the cave, from the Republic book 7, paints this vividly. Prisoners chained in a cave see shadows on a wall, cast by firelight and objects, puppets of dogs, trees, believing them real. One escapes, climbs out, discovers the sunlit world, trees, dogs, sky, not shadows but originals. The cave is our senses, the shadows fleeting things, the sun, the form of the good, illuminating truth. Returning, he's mocked, eyes dazzled, he stumbles, yet he knows. Plato's Athens mirrored this. Citizens chased wealth, power, shadows of the real, while he urged a turn to wisdom's light. This grew from his time's tensions. Athens in 387 BCE buzzed with trade, ships docked with grain from Egypt, wool from Miletus. Yet war's scars lingered. Sophists like Protagoras taught, man is the measure truth, bending to opinion. Politicians like Alcibiades swayed crowds with charisma. Plato saw chaos, Socrates' death proved it, where truth shifted with whim. If all's relative, he asked in Theaetetus, what's knowledge? The forms answered, eternal, unchanging anchors, beauty not in one flower, but in all beauty, justice not in one law but in justice itself. Aristotle, Plato's student, later tweaked this. Forms exist in things, not apart, but Plato held firm. The visible fades, the intelligible endures. A potter shapes a cup, it cracks, yet the form of cup remains. In a Greece of marble statues and fleeting triumphs, this offered a lesson. Seek what's beyond, find stability in the unseen. The soul's journey, reason as guide. Platonism sees the soul as eternal, a spark of the divine trapped in flesh, yearning for the forms. In Phaedo, Socrates, facing death, says, the soul is immortal, akin to the divine, invisible, unchanging. Before birth, it dwells with the forms, beauty, truth, learning their essence. Birth drapes it in a body, clouding memory. Life's task, recall anamnesis. Through reason, the body's a prison. He muses in Phaedrus, senses muddling the soul's sight. Taste shifts, eyes blur, but the mind honed pierces the veil. The tripartite soul in the Republic maps this. Reason, like a charioteer, guides spirit, courage and appetite, desire. Two horses, one noble, one wild. A merchant's appetite craves gold, spirit drives honor, reason steers toward justice. Balance brings harmony, imbalance chaos, appetite unchecked hordes, spirit unchecked wars. In Athens, where Alcibiades' ambition led to Sicily's ruin, 415 BC, Plato saw this. Reason's reins calm the soul's tumult. This echoed Socrates' know thyself.
But Plato stretched it. Knowledge isn't sensory, it's recollection. In Meno, Socrates quizzes a slave boy on geometry. No schooling, yet answers flow. Proof the soul knew before. Education isn't filling, it's turning the soul's eye to light. In a Greece of oracles, Delphi's Pythia spoke fate. Plato's lesson was clear. Trust reason, seek within, climb toward truth. The good, the sun of existence. Plato crowned his forms with the good, the source of all truth, beauty, being. In the Republic, Socrates likens it to the sun. As the sun gives light to see, the good gives intelligibility to know. It's not a god to worship. Plato's divine is abstract, but a principle illuminating reality. A sculptor carves a statue. Beauty flows from the good. A judge rules fairly. Justice reflects it. The good is beyond being, he says, a pinnacle. The soul ascends toward through reason. This clashed with Greece's pantheon. Zeus hurled bolts, Apollo sang, yet Plato wove them in God's mirror. The good, not whims. In Athens, where sophists sold persuasion, Gorgias dazzled crowds. Plato saw shadows. The good was light. His academy taught this. Math, astronomy, dialectic, tools to grasp it. A farmer plants, goodness guides growth. A poet writes, beauty mirrors it. In a world of war, Persian invasions, Spartan sieges, this offered a lesson. Seek the good, anchor life in what shines eternal. Practical Platonism, living toward truth. Platonism's wisdom shapes life. Seek the forms, judge not by wealth's glee, but justice's essence. Love not a face, but beauty's truth. A merchant trades, profits a shadow. Fairness the form, reason guides. A soldier fights, glory tempts, but wisdom weighs. A parent teaches, anger flares but patience holds. Turn the soul to light. Plato urges in the Republic, question appearances, recall truth. Justice balances, rule appetite, temper spirit. A craftsman crafts, greed pulls, reason steadies. In Athens, Alcibiades fought 30 tyrants' cruelty. Plato saw imbalance, harmony heals. The good inspires. A baker needs not for coin, but craft's sake. A healer cures not for fame, but good. In a Greece of flux, Alexander's wars, Platonism offers a lesson. Seek what lasts, live by reason, find peace in the eternal. A timeless ascent, Platonism echoes through time. A philosophy of truth, born in Athens' dust yet stretching beyond. Plato's cave, forms, good, they whisper a lesson. Look past shadows, climb to light. Skeptics doubt, cynics shed, Epicureans savor. Here Platonists seek, calm in the eternal. The world hums, Athens fades, and you carry this wisdom forward, steady and clear.
A mind born amid Greece's crossroads, Aristotelianism unfolds from the rugged hills and bustling ports of ancient Greece, a philosophy that took root in the 4th century BCE, amidst a world of marble cities, thriving trade routes, and the ceaseless hum of intellectual exploration. It emerges from the boundless curiosity of Aristotle, a thinker whose mind stretched across the natural and human realms, crafting a system of reason that sought to understand existence, not through mystic visions, unshakable doubts, or eternal ideals, but through observation, logic, and a steady pursuit of purpose woven into all things. This was a time of profound transition in Greece, a period where the echoes of a once golden age mingled with the rise of new powers, reshaping the ancient landscape. The 5th century BCE, had been Athens' zenith. Its navy ruled the Aegean. Its dramatists, like Aeschylus and Sophocles, filled open-air theatres with tales of gods and mortals, and its architects raised the Parthenon atop the Acropolis, a gleaming testament to human craft. The Persian Wars, 490–479 BCE, had tested Greece's resolve, with victories at Marathon and Salamis, forging a fragile unity among city-states. Athens, Sparta, Thebes, Corinth, against a common foe. Yet by Aristotle's birth in 384 BCE, this unity had shattered. The Peloponnesian War, 431–404 BCE, a brutal clash between Athens and Sparta, drained both powers. Athens' long walls fell, its fleet sank, its democracy buckled under Spartan occupation, replaced briefly by the 30 tyrants in 404 BCE, a ruthless oligarchy that left scars on the polis. As Athens rebuilt, a new force emerged from the north, Philip II of Macedon, a cunning king who unified his rugged kingdom and turned his gaze southward. His triumph at Chaeronea in 338 BCE crushed the allied forces of Athens and Thebes, binding Greece under Macedonian hegemony, a shift solidified by his son, Alexander the Great. Alexander's campaigns after 336 BCE stretched Greek influence from the Ionian Sea to the Indus River, creating an empire of vast cities. Alexandria in Egypt, Seleucia in Mesopotamia, that pulsed with trade and thought. Into this dynamic era stepped Aristotle, born in Stagira, a small Greek colony on the Chalcidice Peninsula near Macedon's border, a windswept land of rocky shores and scattered olive groves. His father, Nicomachus, served as physician to King Amyntas III, Philip's father, exposing young Aristotle to the tools of healing, herbs, scalpels, the body's mysteries, a seed for his lifelong fascination with how the world functions. Orphaned by his teens, he was sent to Athens at 17, around 367 BCE, entering Plato's academy, a sanctuary of learning just beyond the city walls, where olive trees shaded paths trodden by students, debating mathematics, astronomy, and the nature of reality. Aristotle spent 2 decades at the academy, absorbing Plato's vision of the forms, perfect, unchanging truths beyond the senses, yet quietly forging his own path, one grounded in the tangible, the observable, the here and now. Plato's death in 347 BCE prompted his departure, first to Assos in Asia Minor, where he advised the ruler Hermias and married his niece Pythias, then to Lesbos, where he studied marine life along its rocky coasts, and later to Macedon in 343 BCE, summoned by Philip II to tutor a 13-year-old Alexander, a prince destined to conquer the world. By 335 BCE, with Athens under a Macedonian enforced peace, Aristotle returned, founding the Lyceum near the Lyceus Grove, a school of shaded walks, scroll-lined rooms, and open inquiry where he lectured, dissected, and catalogued existence. His works, Nicomachean Ethics, Physics, Metaphysics, Politics, Poetics, survive as lecture notes, not polished treatises, preserved by students like Theophrastus, who succeeded him. In a Greece of empires and shifting tides, Alexander's death in 323 BCE sparked the Diadochi Wars. Aristotelianism offered a life-changing lesson. Reason unveils purpose, balance fosters flourishing, and the world yields wisdom to those who seek it with open eyes. The Four Causes, a lens on reality. Aristotelianism begins with a question that threads through all things. Why do they exist as they do? In physics, Aristotle answers with the Four Causes, a framework to peel back reality's layers and grasp its essence. First, the material cause. What's it made of? A table's wood, a statue's bronze, a river's water, the raw stuff that gives it form. Second, the formal cause, what's its shape or essence? The table's flat surface, the statue's human contours, the river's winding path, the design that makes it what it is. Third, the efficient cause, what brought it into being, the carpenter's hands shaping the wood, the sculptor's chisel, carving the stone, the rain and earth channeling the stream, the force that crafts it. Fourth, the final cause, what's its purpose? The table holds a meal, the statue inspires awe, the river nourishes a valley, the why that drives its existence. We do not have knowledge of a thing until we have grasped its why, he writes in Physics, urging us to see beyond mere appearance to the purpose beneath. This diverged from Plato's forms, eternal ideals separate from the world. Plato's perfect tableness floated apart. Aristotle's form lived in the wood, shaped by hands for use. In Athens' agora of 335 BCE, this resonated. Potters spun clay material into amphorae form, with wheels efficiency to store wine. Purpose. Shipwrights hewed timber into triremes to sail the Aegean. Aristotle saw purpose everywhere. Nature does nothing in vain. He asserts on the heavens a seed grows into an oak, a bird's wings lift it skyward, a river carves its bed. His method was empirical, dissecting fish on Lesbos shores, charting stars above Stagora, noting ants in the Lyceum's dust, where Pythagoreans sought mystic numbers, 6 as harmony, and sophists like Protagoras spun truth into opinion. Man is the measure. Aristotle catalogued over 500 animal species in History of Animals, winds and rains in meteorology, the soul's faculties in Dianima. In a Greece scarred by war, Peloponnesian losses, Macedonian conquests, he offered a lesson: reason unravels the world's why, rooting life in what's real, tangible, purposeful. This wasn't cold abstraction. Aristotle walked Athens' markets, watched blacksmiths hammer iron, farmers thresh barley, seeing causes in motion. All things aim at some end, he writes. In Metaphysics, a teleology where a child grows to reason, a vine to fruit, a polis to justice. Unlike the cynic's rejection of craft or the skeptic's doubt of knowing, Aristotle embraced inquiry. Why does fire rise? Water fall? His answers shaped a cosmos of order, not chaos, a lesson that steadies the mind. Seek the causes, and the world's dance reveals its steps. Eudaimonia, the pursuit of flourishing. Aristotle's ethics pivot on eudaimonia, often rendered happiness, but truer as flourishing, life's ultimate aim. In Nicomachean Ethics, named for his son Nicomacheus, he declares, the good for man is an activity of the soul in accordance with virtue, in a complete life. This isn't fleeting pleasure, wine's warmth, applause's thrill, but a lasting state, a life well lived through reason's light. Man is a rational animal, he notes in Metaphysics, his capacity to think setting him apart. Eudaimonia flows from wielding this gift fully, not squandering it on whim or want. Virtue, arte, is its cornerstone, a balance between extremes via the golden mean. Courage sits between cowardice and rashness. A soldier stands firm, neither fleeing nor charging blindly. Generosity balances stinginess and extravagance. A merchant shares profits, neither hoarding nor wasting. Virtue is a state of character concerned with choice, he explains. Forged by habit, act justly, become just, face fear, grow brave. In Athens, where Alcibiades' ambitions sank the Sicilian expedition, 450, and the 30 tyrants clutched power, Aristotle saw imbalances cost. Reason restores harmony. Every art and inquiry aims at some good. He opens ethics, tying eudaimonia to purpose. A farmer sows for harvest, a poet crafts for beauty,
A citizen votes for justice. This reflected his world's contrasts. Athens in 335 BCE pulsed with life. Ships unloaded grain from Thrace. Sculptors chiseled marble. Philosophers debated in the Stoa. Yet war's wounds lingered. Widows mourned. Fields lay fallow. Stoics later prized endurance. Epictetus bore slavery. Epicureans sought pleasure. Epicurus savored bread. Aristotle bridged the contemplative life is best. He muses in ethics. Yet action matters. A balance of thought and deed. A healer cures not for coin, but health's sake. A teacher instructs not for fame, but wisdom's spread. Eudaimonia unites a flourishing woven from rational excellence. In a Greece of flux, Alexander's empire teetered. His lesson endures. Live purposefully. Balance steadies the soul. Virtue blooms where reason reigns. The Lyceum, a workshop of wonder. Aristotle's Lyceum, founded in 335 mere Athens. Lyceus Grove was no ivory tower like Plato's academy. It was a living laboratory, shaded by plane trees. Its grounds held scroll-lined rooms, jars of pickled fish, pressed plants from Lesbos, a treasury of the Aristotle lectured walking, peripatetic, wandering, students trailing, debating motion, ethics, stars. We must begin with what's known to us. He writes in Posterior Analytics, grounding knowledge in observation, count leaves, measure tides, deduce laws. Unlike Plato's dialogues of lofty forms, Aristotle's notes, compiled by students, spill with detail. Physics probes why stones fall. Metaphysics asks why being exists. Politics maps the polis. Man is a political animal, thriving in community. His time in Macedon, tutoring Alexander, shaped this court's bustled with envoys. Maps unfurled for conquest. Yet Aristotle urged balance. The best constitution blends democracy and oligarchy. He argues in politics, reflecting Athens' sway and Macedon's might. On Lesbos, he waded shallows, sketching octopuses, crabs. History of animals lists their parts, habits, purposes. In Athens he watched tragedies. Sophocles' Oedipus crafting poetics. Tragedy purges pity and fear, a catharsis of soul. After Alexander's death in 323 BCE, anti-Macedonian riots flared. Aristotle, tied to the conqueror's court, fled to Chalcis, dying in 322 BCE at 62, bequeathing the Lyceum to Theophrastus. In a Greece of empires, diadochi clashed. His lesson persists. Inquiry unveils truth. Reason builds understanding. The world rewards the curious. This wasn't solitary. Students joined hunts, dissections, debates, a collective chase for causes. Philosophy begins in wonder. He writes in Metaphysics, a child's gaze at stars, a farmer's at soil, where skeptics suspended judgment and cynics shed tools. Aristotle gathered scrolls, specimens, questions, offering a lesson. Explore with reason, and wisdom grows from what you touch and see. The golden mean, balancing life's extremes. Aristotle's golden mean threads through his ethics, a guide to navigate life's poles. Virtue lies in the mean. He writes in Nicomachean Ethics, not excess or lack, but a midpoint chosen by reason. Friendship balances aloofness and flattery. A companion listens, neither cold nor climb. Temperance sits between gluttony and starvation. A baker eats bread, neither gorging nor fasting. The mean is relative to us, he adds, not rigid, but fitted to each soul. A soldier's courage differs from a scribe's, yet both find center. In Athens, where merchants haggled in the agora and orators swayed assemblies, Aristotle saw excess, greed hoarded, pride strutted, reason tempers. This wasn't abstract. Aristotle watched life for farmer overs tempers it. This wasn't abstract. Aristotle watched life for farmer overworks, fields fail, underworks, weeds choke, balance yields harvest. Habit makes virtue second nature. He notes, practice patience, grow patient, share, grow generous. Unlike Stoics who bore all on, Epicureans who sought ease, Aristotle's leisure, grow generous. Unlike Stoics who bore all on, Epicureans who sought ease, Aristotle virtues impassive but chosen lived. In a Greece of extremes, wars fury, pieces drift. His lesson studies find the meanness and charts the path, flourishing follows balance. Practical Aristotelianism, Neoplatonism charts the path, flourishing follows balance. Practical Aristotelianism, theism.
Living with purpose. Aristotelianism. Living with purpose. Aristotelianism offers a practical compass. Seek causes a carpenter, crafts a chair. Why? Wood, shape, skill, comfort. Know your why. Balance virtues. A merchant trades. Stinginess hoards. Lavishness wastes. Deal fairly. Pursue eudaimonia. A farmer toils, not for gold but thriving. Act with reason. Excellence is not an act, but a habit, he writes in Ethics. Choose wisdom daily. Become wise. Face fear. Grow brave. Observe. A sailor charts tides, not myths. A parent learns a child's ways. Reason guides over guesswork. In Athens, war's ruin. Philip's yoke. Aristotle saw purpose. Mend chaos. Nature aims at perfection, he says in On Generation. A potter shapes clay for use. A teacher molds minds for truth. Live towards your good. Community matters. The solitary man is either a beast or a god. He quips in politics. A baker feeds neighbors. A citizen votes. Eudaimonia thrives with others. In a world of change. Alexander's fall. Diadochi wars. His lesson holds. Reason finds balance. Purpose brings peace. Inquiry lights the way. A legacy of reasoned wonder. Aristotelianism echoes through time. A philosophy of reason born in Greece's dust, yet stretching beyond. Aristotle's causes, virtues, Lyceum. They whisper a lesson. Seek purpose. Balance life. Know the world. Platonists seek forms. Skeptics doubt truths. Cynics shed wants. Here, Aristotelians reason, calm in understanding. The world hums, Athens fades, and you carry this wisdom forward, steady and clear. A guide to flourishing, rooted in the real, nurtured by thought, alive in every step. A vision born in a fading empire. Neoplatonism emerges from the twilight of the ancient world, a philosophy that took shape in the 3rd century CE, amidst the marble ruins and bustling ports of a Roman Empire. Stretched thin by time and turmoil, it flows from the mind of Plotinus, a thinker whose gaze turned inward and upward, weaving a tapestry of thought that sought not just to understand the world, but to transcend it, to reach a unity beyond the senses, beyond the chaos of a fracturing age. This was a period of profound shift. The Pax Romana, Rome's golden era of peace, from Augustus's reign, 27 BCE 14 CE, had begun to crack by the 2nd century CE. Barbarian incursions gnawed at frontiers. The Goths pressed the Danube. The Parthians challenged the East. While internal strife festered, emperors rose and fell in rapid succession. The Severan dynasty, 193–235 CE, giving way to the crisis of the 3rd century, a near half-century of civil wars, plagues and economic collapse that saw Rome's legions turn inward, its coinage debased, its cities shadowed by uncertainty. Alexandria, the great port city of Egypt under Roman rule, stood as a beacon amid this decay, a crossroads of Greek, Egyptian and Jewish thought, its lighthouse still guiding ships through the Mediterranean's waves. its libraries humming with scrolls from centuries past. Here, in 204 CE, Plotinus was born, likely to a modest family. Little is known of his youth, save that he turned to philosophy at 28, studying under Ammonius Saccas, a mysterious sage who blended Plato's ideals with Eastern mysticism. By 244 CE, Plotinus joined Emperor Gordian III's campaign against Persia, seeking wisdom in the East, India's sages, Persia's magi, only to return to Rome after Gordian's assassination, settling there in 246 CE, at age 40. In Rome, a city of grand forums and crumbling tenements, he taught a small circle, senators, poets, seekers, unfurling his vision in lectures later compiled by his student Porphyry into the Enneads, 6 groups of 9 treatises that gleam with insight. His ideas built on Plato, yet stretched beyond. Where Plato saw forms, Plotinus saw a cosmos flowing from a single source, the One. Neoplatonism rippled outward, Porphyry refined it. Iamblichus wove in ritual, Proclus systematized it in the 5th century CE, shaping Christian theology, Islamic mysticism, and Renaissance thought. In an empire of fading glory, Diocletian's reforms in 284 CE staved off collapse, but the West fell by 476 CE. Neoplatonism offered a life-changing lesson. Beyond the world's fracture lies unity, beyond its noise, silence beyond its weight, a rise to the eternal, the One, source of all being. At Neoplatonism's core shines the One, a boundless unity beyond comprehension, beyond form, beyond even being itself. In Enneads I.6, Plotinus writes, "The One is all things and no one of them. The source of all, not all itself, but prior to all. It's not a god in Rome's pantheon, Jupiter hurling bolts, Venus weaving love, but an infinite simplicity, a wellspring from which reality flows. From the One emanates the intellect, nous, a realm of pure thought, grasping the form's beauty, truth, justice, as Plato envisioned, yet alive, a cosmic mind reflecting the One's unity in multiplicity. From intellect flows the soul, psyche, animating the world's stars, trees, humans, a bridge between the eternal and the fleeting. This emanation isn't creation by will but overflow, like a spring spilling into streams, not choosing its path. The One is perfect because it seeks nothing, has nothing, needs nothing. Plotinus muses in Enneads v.2, its fullness birthing all without diminishing itself. In Alexandria, where philosophers debated Aristotle's causes and Stoics bore fate, Plotinus saw beyond. A merchant's wares, a soldier's march, a child's laugh, all shadows of the soul, ripples of the intellect, echoes of the One. We are its offspring, he writes in Enneads III, 8. Not separate, but fragments yearning to return. This differed from Plato's dual realms, forms apart, matter below. Plotinus unified them. The One's light dims through stages, yet all remains its glow. Rome's chaos, plagues of 250 CE, emperors slain mirrored this descent. Neoplatonism promised ascent. A potter shapes clay, its form hints at intellect, its purpose at soul, its being at the One. In a world of fracture, Goths sacked Rome in 410 CE. His lesson lifts, all flows from unity, all seeks it. Peace lies in tracing the stream back to its source. The soul's ascent, returning to unity. Neoplatonism sees the soul as a divine spark, fallen into matter, longing to rise. We are here as exiles. Plotinus writes in Enneads I.6, our task is to awaken, to turn from shadows to the light. This ascent climbs 3 stages: purification, contemplation, union. First, purify. Shed the body's pulls, wealth's glitter, fame's clamor. A merchant in Alexandria counts coins. Plotinus urges him to count virtues, to free his soul from gold's weight. The body is a chain, he says in Ennids, Iv.8, senses clouding truth, taste shifts, eyes tire, reason clears the haze. Next, contemplate, gaze inward at the intellect's forms. In Ennids v.1 he counsels, withdraw into yourself and look. If you do not find beauty there, cut away until you do. A sculptor chisels marble, not to hoard, but to see beauty itself. A poet pens verse, not for applause but truth. Finally, union. Merge with the one, a fleeting ecstasy beyond words. The soul becomes what it beholds. He writes in Ennids v.9, a vision Plotinus claimed to reach. Porphyry notes 4 times in his Life of Plotinus. In Rome, where Christians prayed and Stoics endured, this ascent stood apart. Not endurance, but transcendence. Not faith, but knowing. This echoed Plato's cave, shadows to sun, yet Plotinus climbed higher, past forms, to their source. Alexandria's mix, Jewish mystics, Gnostic seers, shaped this. India's Upanishads, glimpsed on his travels, whispered of Brahman, a unity akin to the one. In an empire of colosseums and crumbling aqueducts, his lesson soars, rise above the fleeting, seek the eternal, find peace in the soul's return. Emanation and hierarchy, a cosmos of order. Neoplatonism maps a cosmos of descending order. The one, intellect, soul, matter, a chain linking infinite to finite. All things proceed from the one. Plotinus writes in Ennids v.2, like light from the sun, weakening with distance. The one is pure unity. Intellect, its first reflection. Ideas like justice, alive, thinking themselves. Soul animates, stars wheel, vines grow, humans reason. A mediator splitting into higher contemplative and lower worldly halves. Matter lies lowest, a shadow of form, not evil, as Gnostics claimed, but dim, yearning for light. Matter is a receptacle, he says in Ennids Dis.4, clay awaiting the potter's hand. This hierarchy mirrored Rome's world. Emperors ruled, senators advised, farmers toiled, yet Plotinus flipped it. True rank is the soul's nearness to the one. A slave in Ostia, pondering virtue, outshines a consul chasing power. The universe is a living whole, he writes in Ennids IV.3, each part, star, tree, man, tied to the rest, reflecting the one's unity in diversity. Unlike Aristotle's teleology, purpose in things, Plotinus saw purpose as return. Unlike Epicurus's atoms, he saw spirit. In a fracturing empire, Diocletian split east and west in 284 CE. His lesson binds all is one. Order flows from above. Peace lies in seeing the whole. Practical Neoplatonism, living toward the divine. Neoplatonism offers a path to live this vision. Purify. A merchant trades not for greed, but need, shedding excess. A soldier fights not for glory, but duty, releasing pride. Cut away the superfluous. Plotinus urges in Ennids Dis. Trim life to its essence. Contemplate. A farmer gazes at his field, not crops alone, but growth's beauty. A scribe pens not for pay, but wisdom's spark. Seek the good within, he writes in Ennids Dis. 5 Reason lifts, beauty guides. Union is rare. Plotinus calls it the flight of the alone to the alone in Ennids Dis. 9 But its pursuit calms. A healer tends a wound, not for thanks, but the one's echo in care. A poet crafts, not for fame but unity's glimpse. In Rome, Nero's fire, 64 CE. Aurelian's walls, 271 CE. Plotinus taught amid chaos, the soul's home is above, he says in Ennids IV. 8. Community reflects this. Love is the bond, Porphyry echoes, help a neighbor, share a meal, see the one in all. In an empire's dusk, Constantine's rise in 306 CE. His lesson ascends, turn inward, rise upward, find peace in the eternal. A legacy beyond time, Neoplatonism, shines through the ages. A philosophy of unity, born in Rome's twilight, yet stretching beyond. Plotinus one, intellect, soul, they whisper a lesson beyond. Chaos lies harmony, beyond matter, spirit, beyond the self, the all. Stoics endure, Aristotelians reason, Platonists seek. Here Neoplatonists ascend, calm in the rise. The world hums, empires fade, and you carry this wisdom forward, steady and free, a path to the infinite, woven from the quiet of this night.